What's going on, everyone? So for those of you that have been following the channel a little while, you will know that I love me some double color, double aspect action, and especially double red, especially with double red Kylo lately. And I figured, you know what, we've had a lot of fun with Grand Inquisitor, let's run this back, but instead of Kylo, let's run a build with Grand Inquisitor instead. So we are here, we're gonna be running double red Grand Inquisitor. Let's talk about it. Before we do, two small things. I have a TCG player link in the description down below. Be sure to use it for any of your cards that you're picking up for Star Wars Unlimited. Second thing, big thank you to my Patreons. We're going to be doing some viewer games. I'll see if I'll record them or not, but if you want to check that out or just chat with us in our community Discord, be sure to check the Patreon down below. Now let's talk about Grand Inquisitor and Grand Inquisitor Red. Now, you've seen Grand Inquisitor Blue, you've seen Grand Inquisitor Yellow, you might have seen Grand Inquisitor Green, although I have not played it on the channel, but Grand Inquisitor Red has a different strength to it. There are really 2/3 cards that I'm really excited about in double red Grand Inquisitor. The first one, and by far the most important one, is aggression. The reason why aggression is so important in this deck is because we already are building around this 3 or less power restriction. And because we have that restriction, we can actually get a ton of value out of readying up a unit with 3 or less power. If you look at some of the units that we have, things like Partisan Insurgent, things like Fifth Brother, things like Clan Challengers, things like Benthic 2 Tubes, these cards can actually end up giving us more value outside of just like the base power that they have, because we have ways to either amplify them or just they already have ways to amplify themselves, and by readying them up they can do even more. And we also tie that in with things like open fire, drawing a card, or defeating upgrades in the aggression card itself, right? So this readying up a unit with 3 or less power is a keep fighting with an open fire on the same card. And if we don't think that keep fighting is going to be pretty good, we don't have to use that mode, but it gives us a guaranteed option almost assuredly with drawing a card, and then pairs it with a lot of different situationally excellent options, such as readying up, defeating upgrades, or doing all that other stuff. Clan Challengers is the best target by a large margin because it hits in for 6. I guess you can also include Grand Inquisitor in that, but in terms of just like the units in our deck, Clan Challengers is the best. But heck, you can ready up a Grand Inquisitor with this a second time to ready up another unit a second time, right? You attack with Grand Inquisitor, hit for 3, ready up another unit, ready up Grand Inquisitor with aggression, attack for 3, ready up another unit again, and then attack with that. It could do some insane stuff. The other card that I'm actually pretty excited about is Bo-Katan. It's a 2 resource 3/3, pretty straightforward, but also draws a card usually when it dies in the middle stages of the game, which can be really nice as well. Alongside that, we got ourselves Chaos of War and Saw Gerrera as some other double red options, which are really strong. Chaos of War, I've been way less impressed by, I will say, than when I initially was kind of previewing and looking at the card, but it still can do some work, and in some cases it will hit for 4 and 5. But this is also something that we can easily resource. Saw Gerrera, there's a lot of events running around right now, so this oftentimes will at least deal 2 damage to your opponent. And then in terms of the rest of the deck, well, we got a little bit of like a Kylo Ren type feel. Death Star Stormtroopers, Benthic 2 Tubes, Partisan Insurgents, all very aggressive units, and kind of work with the, well, aggression theme where they do something bonus with aggression units on the battlefield. Kylo Silencer, nice early space unit. Bo-Katan, nice 3/3. Fifth Brother in our 3-drop slot alongside Death Watch Loyalist. This is where we're starting to see a lot of value being received from the Grand Inquisitor action. Another thing to note with Bo-Katan is she also can get readied up, which is really nice, as there's not a lot of units in red that can be for a lot of value. Alongside that, we have the Punishing One, which also can be readied up in space. In our 4-drop slot, as I mentioned earlier, the Saw Gerreras, but we also have a Hunting Nexu and Imperial Interceptor. I decided to go with a 2-1 split between the Saw Gerrera and Hunting Nexu because there are spots where Hunting Nexu is just slightly better than Saw Gerrera, in that you can actually just attack for that straight up 6 points of damage, which can be a little bit more valuable. And then to finish out the game, we have the Clan Challengers, and in our 6-drop slot, we have Ruthless Raider, which, you know, gets in some damage directly to their base. Overall, that's going to be our unit curve, but we have some events to back it up and some upgrades as well. I already talked about aggression and chaos of war, but we also have open fire, just a straight up way to deal 4 damage. It's really nice when we try to keep some of our extremely damaged units alive. Daring raid, this is really a combo with Tarkentown and also a way to get direct damage into our opponent's base later on in the game. And keep fighting as another event. This works really well with particularly Benthic 2 tubes, Partisan Insurgent, Fifth Brother, Grand Inquisitor, and Clan Challengers. Benthic 2 tubes, you can ready it up again to give something raid to a second time, which could be really nice. Partisan Insurgent is actually just a three powered unit, but in some cases it can get pumped up randomly in various situations, or you can just ready this up and attacks for 3 because it's got 1 less power or 1 power. Fifth Brother can deal damage to itself to get extra raid, which also gives you a little bit of extra value, all of which work really well with keep fighting. And lastly, we have the Fallen Lightsaber, which works really well with some early units, such as Fifth Brother, but you can also place it on random units like Partisan Insurgent, which are kind of just high toughness units that are really tough to deal with, and you can get some value going on there. Of course, it works best with Fifth Brother and Grand Inquisitor themselves, but you can kind of just place it on anything realistically. So that's going to be double red Grand Inquisitor. We're going to run into some games and see what we can do. Pretty excited. Let's see what we got. Into our first game, we got ourselves a matchup against Boba Red. Now, Boba Red tends to be the more space-heavy deck, but we actually have a really nice kind of curve against that. We have an Imperial Interceptor, which I do like in this matchup. I'm going to start us off with a TIE Silencer, and ideally they play, some other space unit, and we'll just end up, either trading or just kind of flying past each other. Benthic 2 tubes can be okay, but it's kind of just in an awkward spot with being a 1 resource play. So it's going to go TIE Silencer, and wow, they have an excellent start here with the Death Star Stormtrooper plus Greedo. So a little bit scary there. We're going to go ahead and play out the Death Watch Loyalist with attacking with a TIE Silencer, but this is a very aggressive start from our opponent, and I don't know if we could really compete with this with the hand that we've got going on. Let's go to attack in with the TIE Silencer. Oh my goodness. So Armed to the Teeth is gonna pump this up, and they're gonna get in for 10 damage. My goodness. That is kind of insane. They're gonna shoot first. What an insane draw from our opponent. That is absurd. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. My goodness, was that just insane. Here, let's go ahead and resource the punishing one. We don't even have a way to really deal with this Greedo that's armed to the teeth here. Like, it's just going to be, oh my gosh. This is disgusting. Like, we are... I mean, sometimes, you just get absolutely wrecked, I don't actually... Okay, they're going to attack here, sure. I don't actually know if that was necessarily a great play. We are going to Tarkentown here. Just get rid of this Death Star Stormtrooper, but my gosh, is this just ridiculous. Whew. Our opponent had the shoot first. They had the TIE advance for the Death Star Stormtrooper. They had the arm to the teeth alongside the shoot first to kind of avoid any sort of situations that's happening. What a round. And now they have tripled our grade to finish us off. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than this in Boba Red. I will be honest, guys. That is absurd. I mean, this is just crazy because they're going to attack for 7, and then they have the Boba Fett flip to deal with, and that was just awesome. That was awesome. That was just absolutely destroyed. Could not do anything about it. I have been messing around with Boba Red a lot, and that was one of the best hands I have ever seen with Boba Red. So awesome for our opponent. Nice job. Let's move on to the next game. Out of the frying pan and into the fire here against Sabine Green, and we have a pretty awful hand. Well, we mulligan into a much better hand. We do have the Fifth Brother, which is something that I really do like in this matchup. I'm gonna go ahead and resource this Death Watch Loyalist, and I think I want to resource this Silencer. I get the most options here because I get to go turn 1 Bo-Katan, potentially ready it up, potentially not, depending on what they play. And then turn 2 Fifth Brother, and Fifth Brother tends to be pretty good against Sabine. So I do like that. So let's go Bo-Katan here. And we might ready it up, we might not, as I said. They're going to claim initiative. Okay, I really like that spot then, because we're just going to attack in for 3. Chaos of War looking potentially decent here. I think I'm going to resource this punishing one. Good chance that we ready up a 5th brother here and then attack in for 5 total damage. Ooh, okay. Yeah. Let's just go ahead and play a 5th brother here. And we don't even need to attack this Fighters for Freedom. We can just, well, deal damage to 5th brother, ready it up. And then we can deal 1 to this and deal 1 to the Fighters for Freedom. And now both of our units actually trade with the Fighters for Freedom, which I love. So that's 12 total damage coming in, which is pretty nice. Here we can go open fire alongside the Death Star Stormtrooper, or Chaos of War alongside Death Star Stormtrooper. Have to just see what our opponent decides to do here. Now remember, Bo-Katan's actually going to draw us a card if they have 15 damage on their base. And they're incentivized to kill this 5th brother since he does 5 damage total to our opponent's base, which is, no, a lot stronger. Okay. Little bit strange there, I'm going to be honest, because normally what you're going to want to see is them... This actually doesn't trade with 5th brother. I misspoke early on. But yeah, I'm just a little bit surprised to see them go for the 5th or the Bo-Katan there. So they're gonna go on an attack, most likely a what? Do they have like a daring raid or something? What? All right, our opponent just kind of let us win this game, to be honest. I'm not really sure. I think our opponent just misclicked the Fighters for Freedom, because they could have killed 5th brother and let the Fighters for Freedom live, which would have been pretty good. And then we attack in with Bo-Katan, so we still get in for 3 points of damage. And then we Chaos of War, we do the Death Star Stormtrooper, so we still would have done the same thing. And we still would have been in a pretty good spot, but we would have had, well, 2 less units, because, well, 5th brother would have died. And most likely Bo-Katan or Death Star Stormtrooper would have died. Probably Death Star Stormtrooper. And then they would have had another unit available to them. And we still would have drawn, you know, the Daring Raid. The Clan Challengers were still available to us. We still had Tarkin Town, so we could have Tarkin Towned away the Fighters for Freedom afterwards if we wanted to. Heck, I probably should have just Tarkin Towned the Fighters for Freedom away when I pinged it with 5th brother. I just didn't think that it was necessary. And, well, we kind of just got there. So pretty straightforward one. Turn 1, do nothing on Sabine Green is a really awful start, though. So I think if our opponent did mulligan, they should have. And if they did, then, well, just an unlucky start for them. Into our next matchup, we get ourselves a match against Tarkin Red. And no turn 1 play is going to be an easy mulligan for us. And this is a matchup where I really, really like the punishing one. And I also really like aggression. So they're going to go ahead and give the Death Star Stormtrooper an experience. I think I just resourced this Fallen Lightsaber here in this spot. And I think I just go ahead and play out the punishing one. Because we can actually kill their Death Star Stormtrooper and then ready up the punishing one, should we choose to do so. Okay, let's go ahead and attack for 3. They're going to open fire my punishing one. Okay. So I could have gotten in for initial 2 points of damage or 3 points of damage on turn 1. And they're going to Tarkin Town. Okay, so they're playing this extremely aggressively, which is totally fair. But, I mean, we have Daring Raid for the Death Star Stormtrooper. And now the board is pretty much clear. And we're going to be able to play a Death Watch Loyalist, ready it up, and then kill their Incinerator Trooper and also hit them for some damage. So, I mean, kind of evened itself out into this middle stages of the game, or into the middle stages of the game. And that's kind of how things go, I suppose. Gonna go ahead and play a Saw Gerrera, as Tarkin does play a decent amount of events. Let's go ahead and ready up, play the Saw Gerrera, and then I think we're just taking initiative here. Ooh, Rook, huh? Okay, let's just play Saw Gerrera then. They want to flip Tarkin and do their Tarkin stuff. That's totally fine with me. Rook is pretty good here for sure. Give Rook an experience. Looks pretty good. Clan Challengers looks awesome. I think I just get in for 5 points of damage with Saw Gerrera here. They're going to start outpacing us here. Rook is a really tough card for us to deal with. Now remember, we do need a 3 power or less unit to ready up. But if we are able to deprive them of all their resources, then we can really get a lot of value here. Let's just go ahead and pass. I'm kind of curious what they're going to be doing here. So they're going to open fire. Okay, that's totally fine. Let's go Ruthless Raider. Ruthless Raider. Hello? Okay. Ruthless Raider, get rid of the shield on Rook. And let's go ahead and deploy our Grand Inquisitor. And let's attack. Don't get to ready anything, and then we'll pass. So the reason I went that way is if I played the Clan Challenger, they just kill it with Rook, and it's really bad for us. At least this way we have a chance to potentially win the game, because we are actually outpacing them in terms of damage. Now, Aggression can't ready up Ruthless Raiders, so we are kind of in a tricky spot here for sure. But remember, we can defeat 2 upgrades with the Aggression and deal 4, which could potentially lead us down a really nice spot. Well, they have an Overwhelming Barrage, so that's really, really just bad for us. You know, there's not too much that we can do about that. So they... Actually, you know what? We can go ahead and... I think what we want to do is actually attack in for 3 here. And then play Death Star Stormtrooper. Play Clan Challengers. Tarkin Town away the Rook. Oh, that actually doesn't kill it with Tarkin Town. That was just me not reading the damage numbers. Ooh, they have a Maul? Let's see here. So we can... What do we want to do? So we Aggression, Bo-Katan, ready it, deal 2 with the Daring Raid. Yeah, so let's defeat, deal damage. So we're going to defeat an upgrade on Rook, and we're going to deal 4 to Tarkin. So that's going to get rid of both units. And that allows us to play Bo-Katan, ready her, attack, and then Daring Raid you. Or if we needed it, that would have been fine. So a little bit, I think I misplayed that a little bit. I just didn't do the math in my head properly. But that Rook was a really scary threat. We ended up fighting through it. We also fought through the double open fire plus overwhelming barrage. They played a much more controlling style, which I think they might have just been benefiting from attacking us directly. Like, I think if they decided to do that and then rely on the Rook later on, then they could have really just pushed a lot of pressure onto us. But they used a very early Tarkin Town, and they ended up like just trading or like trying to kill all of my units with the open fires and such, which ended up working pretty nicely for them. They just kind of weren't able to do enough damage to close out the game. So pretty cool. Tarkin Red doing some work, but on to the next one. Into our next matchup, and we're against double blue Iden. And this is going to be a little bit of a rough matchup, I would have to say, as they're going to have just so many different things. Now, we have a pretty good start with Death Star Stormtrooper plus Benthic 2 tubes on turn 1. But even then, it's going to be a little bit rough. Now, the nice thing about Benthic 2 tubes here is if they go and kill the Death Star Stormtrooper, we can still go ahead and play one of our units out, ready it up, attack with Benthic 2 tubes, and they still get raid 2, which is pretty useful. So Just something to keep in mind. Punishing one looking a lot less interesting than the Partisan Insurgent and Bo-Katan here. Make an opening, killing Benthic. Okay, that's totally fine. Let's go ahead and attack in with Death Star Stormtrooper. Make an opening early like that ends up being kind of whatever. I'm surprised they didn't let us attack here with Benthic 2 tubes, because I probably would have just attacked with Benthic 2 tubes, give raid 2 to Death Star Stormtrooper, and then they make an opening, and then they heal 2 and prevent all that big damage coming out. So I think that was actually probably just a mistake from our opponent. Well, not necessarily a mistake, but I would have sequenced that a little bit differently to try to get a little bit more value. Again, not a mistake, just something that they could have done a little bit differently if they expected me to play a certain way. Of course, if I had just attacked with Death Star Stormtrooper, they still could have played Make an Opening and gone ahead and healed the 2. Really, you just want to heal that 2 with Make an Opening. It's getting in for 3, and they said great YouTube, so thank you. Appreciate that. And here I am kind of criticizing their Make an Opening play. But as I said, this is a really rough matchup for us. As they have just so much healing, and we kind of run out of steam very quickly. We'll see what ends up happening. Let's go to resource one of these guys. I think I want to resource this 5th brother, actually. Might be a little bit surprising, but I don't really care for that. Takedown, they're going to take down the Partisan Insurgent. That's totally fine. Let's go Deathwatch Loyalist. So they've had removal spell, turn 1 play. This is just the classic Iden blue stuff. Let's go ahead and deal damage to the Deathwatch Loyalist. Get in for a total of 8 damage. They're also going to heal one with Iden. Let's get in for 5. Get in for another 3. And pass. Drew ourselves a Clan Challengers, which is a pretty nice draw, actually. So I don't mind that one. I think I actually want to get rid of this Fallen Lightsaber. Let's see what they have. They could have like a Vanquish. No, you can draw 3. I do not mind them drawing 3 cards. Let's get in for 5 damage. It's gonna be the most damage. I Am Your Father can be okay in some situations, but not exactly that great in this spot. Clan Challengers, we're gonna ready it up, attack for 6. Entrenched doesn't allow them to heal, and now they're kind of in a tough spot because they play any units in the ground arena. They're in a spot where, okay, they probably should have attacked, but it's not really that relevant. They're in a spot where they can't really play any unit to actually prevent us from getting in damage, and they're a little bit far away from Super Laser Blast. Now, the best card they could see here is like a Vigilance, where they like Vigilance plus Entrenched. So they like Vigilance the Deathwatch Loyalist. But you see here, like, yeah, you could play a Child Sin, but we have an Entrenched Partisan Insurgent, which we just kill the Child Sin. So like Entrenched kind of negated itself there. It did save them a little bit of life last turn, but maybe they just didn't have another play because they had to use I Am Your Father, and they drew in a bunch of cards. They had 2 resources left, and that was it. But now they're kind of just dead, and they say GG. So I imagine it was something along the lines of like, okay, I don't have any other play, and I may as well just save the HP now. But it's part of the problem with Entrenched a lot of the times is you really want to be in a spot where you're able to take some board presence, and we kind of just ran them over. Just got in some really nice early plays. I will say, if we had a hand with just like a Bo-Katan turn 1, and we like readied it up, attacked for 3, which we would have done, and they went Make an Opening, and then we just played a 1 play every turn, we would have lost. I'm almost certain of that. The reason why we won that game is because we had the double 1-drop. That is how you really beat these controlling decks, because these controlling decks are trying to go 1 for 1, 1 for 1, 1 for 1, and you're not really taking that much damage until the leader flips. And then by the time the leader flips, you're pretty close to Super Laser Blast, right? Like if we had not really gotten that much damage in, it would have been so much easier for them to come back. But because we had the double 1-drop, it was really tough for them. And to be fair, it looks like they kind of fumbled, not fumbled, but like drew a little poorly in the later stages of the game, where they had the Make an Opening plus Takedown, which is a nice start, and then they followed up with I Am Your Father and Entrench, which is a little bit weaker, and then they had to follow that up with Child Sin. They didn't have a Vigilance here. If they had a Vigilance, that would have been an entirely different story as well. Vigilance is by far the strongest card in this matchup, since all of our units are going to be 3 or less toughness, right? The exception to that is like Clan Challengers, but everything else is going to be killable by Vigilance. So good game from our opponent, and well, we ended up getting there. So pretty cool. Into our next matchup, and we're not gonna mulligan this because even though we don't have like a double 1-drop turn, we do have a really nice situation for us because we can go and resource the punishing one and the silencer and go turn 1 Bo-Katan, ready it up, attack for 3. Turn 2 Partisan Insurgent Benthic 2 tubes, ready up the Partisan Insurgent, attack for 6, assuming they have absolutely nothing, which is unlikely, but it is something to consider. It is Vader Blue, and so we are against a more controlling deck. This is probably even a little bit more tough than Iden Blue. It depends. If Iden Blue would have drawn Vigilance, it would have been way more tough for us. But because Vader Blue is on 6 resource Vigilance, this matchup can be a little bit easier if your opponent is drawing those types of cards over the other cards that they have access to in Darth Vader. For example, Death Star Stormtrooper, excellent against us. And there it is. So that is a card that, well, we can't even activate Grand Inquisitor because they're just going to deal 1 damage to Bo-Katan and kill us, right? So there isn't really anything that we could do here. As I said, this is a matchup that's even tougher than Iden Blue because of the fact that they have early plays like Death Star Stormtrooper and apparently like TIE Fighter. They're going off over there. I'm not going to lie, guys. They are going off. So here we're going to go ahead and resource that punishing one because we want to keep our curve really cheap and we want to get down as many threats as we possibly can. Of course, this is going to be a Benthic 2 tubes plus Death Star Stormtrooper setup here. And I know they had a TIE Fighter. Let's say they didn't have a TIE Fighter. They would have used the action. So there was really no option for us to ready up Bo-Katan. If we had readied up Bo-Katan with dealing 2 damage to it, they could have just used the Vader action, and they almost assuredly would have, rather than playing the TIE Fighter. Oh, okay, so this is a much different version of Darth Vader than I was expecting, to be honest. They're really aggressive, actually. They have a Snowtrooper Lieutenant, and they're going to deal a damage to something here. Now, remember, we can ready either the Partisan Insurgent or the Bo-Katan, but we're actually under a good amount of pressure here, so we might have to consider starting to trade off with units. Okay, never mind. They are going to go ahead and just trade off themselves, so seems pretty straightforward to me. Then the 2 tubes is going to come down, and we're going to go ahead and get in with the Partisan Insurgent. See what our opponent's got. Probably nothing. Really interesting list so far. I was expecting like Power of the Dark Sides, making openings and that type of stuff, and I got Death Star Stormtrooper, TIE Fighter, Snowtrooper Lieutenant. So a very, 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 very different style than I was expecting. So this is a really nice couple of options that we've got. Now they could go with like killing my Benthic 2 tubes straight up with the Snowtrooper Lieutenant. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they decided to do. I'm actually going to resource the Death Star Stormtrooper because I'm very much expecting them to kill my Benthic 2 tubes here, and I would actually like to replay it and then potentially keep fighting the Benthic 2 tubes to get in for 4 potential damage. We'll see what ends up happening here. Opponent is in the thinking tank. Ideally, what we do is play the Partisan Insurgent, attack with Benthic 2 tubes, then ready up the Partisan Insurgent with Grand Inquisitor, which is now attacking for 5, and then keep fighting to attack for another 5, which would be really, really quite excellent. Opponent is still deciding on what to do. They're going to go ahead and attack my my Partisan Insurgent. I was kind of expecting them to just kill the Benthic 2 tubes. I suppose this makes some sense as they don't lose their Snowtrooper Lieutenant. Wow, okay. I was definitely not expecting a Guardian of the Wills to pop up. That is a little bit insane. Okay. Let's ready up this Partisan Insurgent. Let's go ahead and attack in for 5. And then we can keep fighting the partisan insurgent to attack for another 5. Oh, wow. They have a force lightning, huh? Okay. I mean, sure. What a... I mean, I don't know what to expect here, but they're playing like Guardian of the Wills to set up their force lightnings. Like, you do you. I mean, that's all I can say is like, you just do whatever you want to do. It is working out. Let's see here. Let's just go ahead and attack into their Guardian of the Wills here to remove any sort of force synergies. Honestly, I mean, who knows what to expect here at this point. Let's go ahead and play. Let's Tarkin Town the Snowtrooper Lieutenant here. I have no idea what to expect here, guys. I'm going crazy. I'm going crazy. Let's go ahead and play a Saw Gerrera. They can't use the Vader action because they did not play a villainy card this turn. I'm sorry, I just did not expect that whole sequence. Like, turn 1 Death Star Stormtrooper TIE Fighter, turn 2 Snowtrooper Lieutenant, use the action, turn 3 Guardian of the Wills Force Lightning your unit. Like, what is going on here? I'm getting absolutely demolished. So Imperial Receptor looking pretty weak here. Not super exciting. Open Fire looks a lot better, especially since we can do 2 plays this turn. Now, they can't deploy Vader, so this is kind of our time to shine. This is when we want to get in as much damage as we possibly can. And we can do a lot, because what we can do here is attack with Benthic 2 tubes, pump up something, play a Death Watch Loyalist, ready up the Death Watch Loyalist. Oh, they want to... Okay, I will not let them deal 7 damage. They're going to take 2. So they have 3 resources. So I'm trying to think of what they could play. I don't really see them being able to play anything that's really going to threaten us. So I'm just going to attack with Benthic 2 tubes first. Ooh, they have a Force Choke. Wow. Okay. That is one way we get some unfortunate circumstances for us, because we lose out on 2 points of damage alongside the 5 from Saw Gerrera. But I think we're actually still in a good spot, because what they should do here is deal 1 to the Death Watch Loyalist so that we can't ready it up with Grand Inquisitor. Fortunately for us, we have Fallen Lightsaber, so we still can get in some extra damage, because what we're going to do is ready up the Benthic 2 tubes here. No, I think that they should have dealt a damage to the Death Watch Loyalist here, so that they could have prevented the little bit of damage that Death Watch Loyalist is going to do. Let's ready up Grand Inquisitor. And we're going to play a Fallen Lightsaber on this guy, and we're going to attack for 6. Nice. And then we're going to pass. Ruthless Raider, reasonable draw here. We have lethal on board with 2 different threats, so that's really nice. I did not think about Force Choke. So we've ran into like this really aggressive bunch of units start into I Am Your Father and Force Choke. I don't even know what to expect from this deck anymore. I have no idea what's happening. Normally there's a lot of people that are playing decks that you can kind of predict what they're going to be playing. I have zero idea what I am to expect here in this game. I have no idea what's going on. It's pretty funny. They have to play like a Sentinel. Force Choke doesn't do it because we just kill them with Grand Inquisitor. But that was a pretty sweet game. That was a pretty sweet game from our opponent. I'm not gonna lie. That was crazy. I did not expect the double 1-drop into Snowtrooper Lieutenant into Guardian of the Wills Force Lightning. Like I said early on that this matchup could be pretty tough because Death Star Stormtrooper is in this matchup. And if they get an early one like that, they can trade with some of the early units and then follow up with more removal. That's what I expected. What I got was everything. I got all the cards in the game. So good on us good on our opponent for brewing this up. And I actually ended up performing pretty well for them. They definitely were in a spot where they could have potentially gotten in. Well, maybe finished out the game. It was pretty close. One thing to note is they had the force choke, so we should have probably gotten in with the Saw Gerrera. I was getting a little bit greedy because I wasn't expecting a force choke, to be honest. Based on what I saw so far, I just didn't expect a force choke. But I should have led with a Saw Gerrera attack, as that's just responsible for 5 points of damage, whereas the Benthic 2 tubes was responsible for 2, right? Granted, the Saw Gerrera did get in for 4 points of damage just by them playing events, so it ended up being pretty good, but I should have gotten in for additional 3 points that game. On to the next one. Into our next matchup where it's Han Green. This is a fine hand, nothing exciting. Chaos of War, usually pretty bad in this matchup. But we have a nice curve. We go 2, 3, 4. Saw Gerrera is pretty good in this matchup because they tend to play a decent amount of events. But we'll see. I don't necessarily like our chances. I think this is a pretty bad matchup. And you'll notice here that the decks that are good are just bad matchups for us because I don't think this deck is like top tier. But it's like a B tier deck is what I would put it in. It's pretty exciting though. It is fun to play. And we do get ourselves a Bo-Katan on turn 1, which is going to get in for some damage, it looks like, which is exciting. Unless they have, put a resource into play a 2-drop, which, I mean, it looks like they have. Kind of curious what they've got here. They could have a Spark or Rebellion. Although, to be honest, if their start is Greedo, Spark Rebellion, I'm happy because that's a pretty weak start. Okay, they're going to go Leia Exhaust. Not too worried about that one either. Partisan Insurgent plus Death Star Stormtrooper. I like that. I'm actually going to resource the Saw Gerrera. And in this spot, I don't think I care to trade my units off. So I'm just going to attack their base. And they had a pretty aggressive start themselves. They had the Leia plus Greedo. So let's go Death Star Stormtrooper. If they want to trade it, that's fine. Nope, they're going to attack base. Let's go Partisan Insurgent. They have a resupply. That's fine. Let's go ahead and deal damage to this Partisan Insurgent. And let's attack for 3. Remember, they've used one of their actions last turn, but this turn they did not. They just resupplied. Drew ourselves a Benthic 2 tubes, a Fallen Lightsaber. We still have the aggression. I'm kind of tempted to resource this Benthic 2 tubes, even though we could go Fallen Lightsaber plus or Deathwatch Loyals plus Benthic 2 tubes. I think it's kind of just expired its interest at this point. So here, if I were them, you could attack either way. I think the more relevant one to kill would be probably the Partisan Insurgents. But if they get lucky, they hit an event here. Looks like they did not necessarily get lucky. Let's go ahead and play a Deathwatch Loyalist, and we're going to attack in with the Partisan Insurgent. So they could put a resource down, ready up Han, which would be pretty nice for them. Nope, they're just going to attack with, or play a Battlefield Marine. Spark of Hope. Okay, well, they're going to get a Han down. That's something. Let's attack for 5 into their base, and we'll see what they decide to do with this Han. So definitely a more aggressive version of Han Green than I am expecting. Let's claim initiative. Chaos of War is pretty bad here. I think what I want is to kill the Han. Maybe I just let them deal with it. Yeah, I think I should just attack their base for 5. U-wing reinforcements off the top? You're joking. Sometimes they just draw the absolute nuts. Like sometimes that just happens. Sometimes you have to be sitting there and you're like, okay, I guess you just draw the literal best card in your whole deck for that turn. Sometimes that happens. You can't do anything about it. I think we're still in a pretty okay spot. It's not like completely over. But this definitely is a turning point for Han Green here. They just ripped U-wing reinforcements right off the top. Come on, man. They played like Spark of Hope, double Battlefield Greedo, Leia. Like, really? All right, let's go aggression. Let's defeat or deal damage and draw. Now they can use their battlefield marine to attack my Deathwatch Loyalists. That's a reasonable play. Next turn, we have the Fallen Lightsaber on the Grand Inquisitor, which looks pretty good. Yep, they're going to train. Makes sense. I expected that. Oh, man. Ezra and Echo Base, huh? Double Fallen Lightsaber. Now, that actually can be pretty nice because these are not uniques. So I could stack that. Now, they're not actually on 8 resources. They're on 7. Looks like they decided not to resource something. So it looks like they have 2 smaller plays. Oh my gosh. They ripped a Han Solo directly after? You're joking, man. Like, that is just... Sometimes you just get absurdly unlucky, and sometimes you get absurdly lucky, and your opponent rips U-Wing reinforcement into Han Solo right off the top. You're actually joking. All right, we can't really win this game anymore. Oh my gosh. I've never seen anything like... Oh my gosh. Sure. Let's see here. We attack for 3, get in for another 3. I mean, that's 6. I mean, we're just dead. There's nothing we can do. Wow, what a turnaround. Our opponent got ridiculously lucky at the end. That was awesome. They ripped their best card of their deck, followed by the second best card of their deck for those scenarios. I guess they're like comparable. They're both like really good in their deck, but a way to one-shot Han, or a way to one-shot Grand Inquisitor without losing anything, and not even taking damage, so Grand Inquisitor, or Tarkin Town wasn't even that relevant, is pretty brutal. I could have led with Deathwatch Loyalists, but very likely that they would have just attacked it with Ezra. At least that's what I would have done, so I didn't think that that was realistically a good option. Either Ezra or the Han Solo leader. So we were just in a really bad spot after they ripped the U-Wing reinforcement into, well, pretty much the U-Wing reinforcement when they had like the full board. We could have maybe dealt with one of them, but not both of them. If we drew a little bit different, maybe. But anyways, that's how Star Wars Limited is. That's how card games are. That was awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we get to finish it off with a classic matchup against Leia Red, one of my favorite decks. I have a personal connection with Leia, as this deck is the deck I first built in paper. We have an okay hand. We had a mulligan the first one because we didn't have any turn 1 plays, but this hand is okay. We do have TIE Silencer on turn 1. We are really hoping for a 3-drop because, oh, they played an A-Wing. Never mind. This has suddenly become a pretty nice hand because of the A-Wing from our opponent. Here, let's go ahead and resource this Ruthless Raider. I'd rather keep more options in my hand because, again, Daring Raid combos with the Tarkin Town to give us more options to kill things, which is really nice. Also, Daring Raid could just potentially kill something straight up, which is also pretty good. So here, let's go Death Star Stormtrooper. Let's see what they play afterwards. Let's go ahead and Daring Raid the Sabine and then Tarkin Town it away. And then we're going to pass. Wow, our draws have been pretty bad here. We've drawn our second Silencer and a Chaos of War. So no units to be seen, which is really what we're looking for. Hopefully they play a space unit. That's all I can hope for. And we can Imperial Interceptor it. Play like a A-Wing or something. A Bright Hope. All right, well, that's not exactly an A-Wing, but it is a way to use our resources this turn. So I don't mind that. Let's go Imperial Interceptor, deal 3, kill it with TIE Silencer, and then pass. So here I could keep the Chaos of War, but I think we're in a spot where we just can't afford to keep these like dead cards in our hand. Like, we really don't want to be having a card that does essentially nothing in our hand. Besides deal damage to our opponent, because our opponents add 3 damage on their base. Like, it's not really a lot of damage on their base. So far, we've done a good job of kind of removing their units, which is pretty funny. So they're going to deploy Leia here to start off. I'm going to start off by attacking with the Death Star Stormtrooper, just guarantee get that damage in. Ooh, and they're going to go ahead and play a Wing Leader. So this is interesting. Let's go ahead and pass. Actually, let's go Daring Raid. Oh, they're going to attack. I was thinking that I didn't actually want to pass. Let's go Fifth Brother. Let's ready up Fifth Brother. And let's go ahead and attack their base. And deal 1 to Leia. And I think what we want to do is daring raid away the wing leader and then pass. So I was actually thinking I wanted to daring raid something, because if I pass here, they could take initiative, and that's pretty bad for us as well. But it ended up working out, I suppose. So resources, daring raid, keep our Ruthless Raider in hand. It's one of our most powerful cards. So here they have a choice. Let's see if they decide to kill Fifth Brother. They do. And then they can attack the Interceptor. Okay, so they're just going to kind of go on the value, I'm going to kill all your stuff plan, which is fine. Okay, they're going to play a Echo-based defender. Let's go ahead and drop a Ruthless Raider and hit the Leia. Wing Leader, make Leia invincible, huh? Okay. Double Wing Leader and Leia is pretty funny. Not gonna lie, guys. That is pretty funny. that is a gigantic Leia. Let's attack into the Echo-based defender, and let's pass. This Fallen Lightsaber is sitting a little bit dead in our hand. This Leia is huge, man. It's so funny. We have lethal on board if they don't do anything with the Fallen Lightsaber and the Clan Challengers. So they're heavily incentivized to kill at least one of our units. I think here I'm going to get rid of the Chaos of War. It's really not looking that appealing. They're going to... Whoa. I was not expecting an attack into the base. We have lethal with the Fallen Lightsabers, with the Clan Challengers. I'm curious as to what they have here. We have a lot of options since we can ready the Clan Challengers with our Grand Inquisitor. So they have a For a Cause. They reveal Battlefield Marine, Regional Sympathizers, Green Squadron A-Wing, and K2SO. Honestly, none of those cards are relevant, so they should just not even bother. It looks like they kept what? They kept the Battlefield Marine on top. Okay. I'm not exactly sure why they kept the Battlefield Marine on top. So I'm going to attack with a Ruthless Raider here, because if they do something to kill my Grand Inquisitor, we just claim initiative, and then we kill them with the Ruthless Raider. If they don't do anything, then we just, play Clan Challengers, ready it up with the Grand Inquisitor, and we win. So, kind of stuck over there. They can play another For a Cause, but they're at 24 damage. They have the second For a Cause. Nice. Sure. That was really close. Not gonna lie, guys. That was really, really close. But that's gonna be the win here today. And we attack them. And that's gonna be GG. GG with a classic Leia beatdown. Wow, that was a little bit scary. They're looking to be a full set 1 deck. They even have Regional Sympathizers in this deck. I will say, Leia is one of those decks that really didn't get that much stronger with set 2. But I was never really playing Regional Sympathizers. So that's kind of interesting to see. Kind of curious if that card's actually a little bit better now that there's a lot more aggro decks in the field. Could be potentially actually pretty solid. Especially in Leia. The cards that you're really looking for in set 2 for Leia is Cassian. That's a pretty solid one. You can still play Poes and Wreckers if you want, but they're not Rebels, and they're kind of expensive, and they're usually not going to get an attack in, so they're kind of awkward. But yeah, nice to see a classical Leia red against the new Grand Inquisitor red. Anyways, that's gonna wrap up the games, guys. Let's talk about the deck here in the final thoughts. All right, so what did we learn with Grand Inquisitor Red? Well, don't go against Boba Red and have them have the nut draw, because we got absolutely obliterated by that deck. We also got pretty wrecked by the Han Green, because they ended up getting their U-Wing reinforcements into Han Solo. And I will say, Han Green is generally just not good of a matchup for us. And they didn't have the initial 7-drop, so that was, I guess, a light in the end of the tunnel. So expect not to necessarily win against the more higher tier decks consistently. This deck does have a lot of punch to it. Now, I've played all 3 variations, red, yellow, blue, that I think are viable. I don't really think green is all that great. I think it's a significant downgrade to the other options that you do have. And I still find that Grand Inquisitor Blue is the most consistent, most powerful. But Grand Inquisitor Red does have some things that the others don't. We didn't really see an amazing, like, keep fighting, aggression, ready up a unit combo. And I will say, those are, like, really nice synergies with this deck. We did see us ready up some units with, like, keep fighting and, like, that type of situation. But one of the big things with this game is you really can't be setting up, like, a massive unit combat. And that's one of the things that Grand Inquisitor really is unfortunately lacking, is the ability to kind of get in those multiple attacks, because by dealing damage to your units, you're really putting them in range that anything can trade with them. And if your opponent plays like a Leia, for example, which we did see, and you have a Death Watch Loyalist that's a 5/1, your opponent's like, oh dang, that's an awesome trade for me, I'm doing it. And they could do it immediately after you attacked. If it was more like Magic, where you could do all your things on one turn and then your opponent's turn goes, I think Grand Inquisitor would be absurdly good. Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in, because I want to deal 30 damage in one turn. So you didn't really get to see us, like, pop off with the cards, but we did actually just have aggressive curves, right? You know, turn 1, Death Star Stormtrooper, Benthic 2 tubes. Turn 2, Partisan Insurgent, Death Star Stormtrooper, or like turn 2, Fifth Brother, ready up those cards, get in for damage. The card that actually impressed me the most was Bo-Katan. We saw it a lot in those games. There were some that we readied it up in and some that we didn't, but the 3/3 body was just really nice. We also saw Guerrera be pretty impressive, and we also saw Ruthless Raider coming in for the clutch ending in some of those games. Overall, deck is good. I would be totally fine bringing this to, like, my F&M, my locals at Star Wars Unlimited, but I wouldn't bring this to, like, a competitive cash tournament and expect to get amazing results. I will say that. Hopefully you enjoyed, everyone. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all for a video soon.